Begin in the Dark by Noha Ijiaki. Chapter 34. Respite. The walk is uncomfortably silent, and it's not hard to imagine why. Despite the fact that he felt just a tiny bit better after having shared his pain with his friends the night prior, virtually nothing changed. Izuku was still missing, and Shoto still had no idea why or how or if he will ever see him again. He couldn't help but drag himself outside after getting dressed with mechanical motions, his head never quite there. Most of the time for the past 5 days, he just felt like he was walking through a thick fog. Colors and noises muted around him as if he wasn't really standing in the same plane of existence as everyone else, and that morning was no different. At least All Might promised to keep his father busy. Shoto honestly does not know what would happen if the old man tries to say anything to him. Anything at all. It might just push Shoto down in pieces like a broken glass. That, or he'd finally snap and try to pay his father back with all the pain that Shoto had been served through his life. He honestly does not know which one of the two options he fears the most. Oi! Bakugo's voice is low, subdued in a way that does not suit him. It's still enough to shake Shoto out of his distant daze, and he turns, blinking at him. If you don't want to go to the lesson today, you should just say so. I think they'll understand. Shoto's brain just goes blank. When he doesn't answer, Bakugo adds, I'm serious. They're not assholes. I don't think they'll hold it against you. No, it's okay. Shoto finally replies, low voice scratching against his dry throat. I'd rather go. Bakugo hums and adds nothing else, his permanent scowl deepening a bit. He says no more as they reach All Might and Present Mike waiting for them. They climb in the car and leave, immersed in a silence so deep one might think they are going to a funeral. Baldy, tone it down. Not everyone is in the mood. Bakugo snaps with his usual grace, surprising Shoto for the second time that morning. Inasa that loudly greeted them upon entering the changing room with his usual wide grin, blinked, surprised, eyes sliding between Shoto and Bakugo. His expression somber significantly, and Shoto can't help but wonder just how truly transparent he must be if someone like Inasa that clashed with him at first, someone that barely knew him, immediately recognized that something was not quite right. Much less loud, he takes the shiketsu hat off his head. I'm not bald, see? Whatever. I really don't care. Bakugo grumbles, turning away to keep undressing. When Inasa turns to look at him once more, Shoto gives him a tiny nod. He really can't get himself to greet him properly. Still, Inasa doesn't seem offended by that as he steps forward and puts his bag down on the bench. He quietly starts to change as well. Bakugo, brash and rushed as usual, is the first one to get in his costume, but strangely enough sits down, arms crossing on his chest, waiting for them. Shoto doesn't really need much time to get changed, usually, his costume much less complicated than Inasa's, but he still takes it slowly. He just wants to give All Might some time to intercept his father and get him out of Shoto's way. As he dons his cape, Inasa turns a bit toward him. You know, if you are sick, you don't have to participate. I'm sure the guys at the committee would understand. What's with today and people that don't really like me worrying for me? I'm okay. Shoto sighs, subdued. Really doesn't look like it. Shoto shrugs, but when Inasa keeps staring, he sighs again. I'm fine, physically. Some unpleasant things are happening in my personal life. He sees Bakugo turn just slightly out of the corner of his eyes, and he keeps his own gaze straight ahead. He's not quite sure he wants to meet either Inasa nor Bakugo's eyes. The weirdness of the possibility that they might be really actually worrying for him is just too much for his brain to process. Well, you know, even heroes have to take it slowly, sometimes, Inasa says, casual. Mental health is just as important as the health of the body. Oh God, stop. This is freaking me out. Did you read that in a fortune cookie? Bakugo says, sarcastic and... Okay, at least this feels normal. Shoto never imagined he'd see the day he'd feel like internally thanking Bakugo for being a brash asshole, but here he is. Leave it be, Baldy. He took his decision. And that's the house. I'm just trying to be considerate. Look, Shoto finally says, interrupting Bakugo that looks like he's just about to release some more sarcasm. It's okay. Truth is, I can't help but feel even more of an idiot for having failed this exam now. The words kind of made it out of his mouth on their own. Both of them are looking at him now, perplexed, so Shoto continues, voice low. I can't help but think that if I have gotten my provisional, maybe now I could be out there doing something. Inasa looks wholeheartedly confused, for good reasons, but understanding immediately flashes in Bakugo's sharp eyes. If I hadn't failed the exam, I could be helping at least. Shoto murmurs, nervously squeezing his own hands repeatedly. That's why I must do everything I can now to remedy to my mistakes. I can't afford to be missing lessons. Bakugo doesn't comment, looking contrite as he turns away with something akin to a pout on his face. Inasa tilts his head on the side, pensive. Well, I'm not quite sure what you were talking about, but if you feel that way, I guess I can understand. A pause. But if you need to take it easy for a bit, just tell us, okay? We are future colleagues, after all. We must support each other. Shoto looks up at him, feeling like the fog on his shoulders lifted, even if just a tiny bit. Inasa grins earnest. Okay, thank you. Shoto murmurs, and they finish getting dressed in silence. Finding Endeavor wasn't hard at all. The man had a towering, oppressing physique to begin with, and if you added the bright flames that he proudly shone at all times, all you had to do was to follow the faint smell of smoke, and you would probably find something orange and bright very soon. Toshinori's relationship with him had always been troubled to non-existence. He tried multiple times in the past to befriend the man, but since Endeavor seemed hell-bent in antagonizing him, there wasn't much Toshinori could do. He kept trying through the years, whenever they'd meet, only to find himself denied. Toshinori always wondered why Endeavor acted the way he did, although he had some theories. But the picture that was slowly being revealed in front of him was one he never expected and that he firmly wished could be just a sick joke. Well, if it isn't the former number one hero, Endeavor says once he notices Toshinori walking up to him, his voice stone cold as usual. Walking between us mere mortals, I guess I should be thanking you for looking after my son. Ha! Good morning, Toshinori replies amicably. Speaking of that, Enji, why don't we go somewhere private and have a chat? There are many things I wish to discuss with you. Endeavor tilts an eyebrow, the movement barely shown by his perpetual mask of flame. I'm afraid that will have to wait. I was hoping to speak with Shoto first. That won't be necessary, Toshinori interrupts, a bit of steel seeping in his voice. In fact, I'm going to have to ask you to not speak with your son at all. Toshinori is not sure if it's the coldness in his own voice or the request, or maybe both. But Endeavor fully turns to him, his piercing azure eyes looking even colder, for how ironic that is, than usual. Excuse me. For young Todoroki's sake, I have to ask you to leave him be for today, Toshinori says, keeping his voice even. He's going through a very rough patch, you see, and I think that your methods will not be beneficial to his mental state at the moment. Endeavor scoffs. Yeah, I bet he is. A sigh. And how exactly do you think you can stop me from speaking with my own son? There's still a tiny spark of one for all in him, Toshinori knows. It's too feeble, weak to be of any real use. Even young Midoriya cannot perceive it. But it's still there nonetheless, and Toshinori cradles it in himself, not forcing his body to shift, just recalling the kind of oppressing energy that he was once able to emit with One for All. Just enough to make the air around them shift, to make something abundantly clear. And he knows it's effective because the expression on Endeavor's face immediately steals.
I might have retired, Edgy, but that does not mean that I'm not still me,
Toshinori says with a smile full of promises.
Now why don't we go get a coffee? I saw a coffee shop just a couple 100 meters from here.
The coffee was bitter, but nothing quite like the company. The kind of terrified baristas served them outside with eyes as big as plates, which was fair since the current number one and the ex-number one heroes were sitting in front of one another outside her establishment looking positively like they might skin each other alive at any second. If anyone thought of approaching them as a few people passed by, they surely must have rethought their choice because not only they not get immediately swarmed by fans, but everyone seems to give them a wide berth.
You know, I was never a nosy one.
Toshinori starts casually after a long silence.
But having had time to observe young Todoroki, I cannot help but wonder if your decisions raising him were truly the right ones.
Endeavor eyes him wearily, mouth hidden behind the plastic cup of his coffee. He puts it down, measured.
I wonder that myself,
he says, and whereas a sentence like that might sound remorseful, his voice is anything but.
But don't you think you are too full of yourself? You don't have any kid, and you've barely started teaching. Getting cocky already, huh? Hardly so,
Toshinori replies evenly, not rising to the bait.
It's true that I do not have children of my own, but I've certainly had the chance to observe my students grow and learned much from them. And there are certain inclinations in the way young Todoroki acts. I can't help but wonder if he's truly happy with his choice of school, if he hadn't been forced into taking such a path.
That's a straight-up lie, and Toshinori knows it. But he's still thrown a bait of his own there, and it seems to be working as Endeavor's fingers tighten dangerously on his cup.
What now?
He says, vaguely annoyed.
Has he found a new way to throw another tantrum?
Toshinori blinks, tilting his head on his side.
I'm not quite sure what you mean. It's just a hunch I've got observing him. Maybe you can elaborate on that a bit?
Endeavor blinks, and he must have realized he fell straight into Toshinori's trap because his eyes turn even colder.
I don't think that's any of your business. Is it not?
Toshinori replies amicably.
I only wish to look after his well-being, after all. As his teacher, having an insight might help me. Speak with him, then.
Endeavor snaps, crossing his legs.
Since he's so hell-bent in being all independent and rebellious.
A little tense silence falls on them as Toshinori mulls over his words before asking,
Are you not worried about him? It's been really hard for him the past few days. Should I be?
Endeavor asks, tilting an eyebrow.
What could have possibly happened that I should worry so much about?
Toshinori blinks, heart falling to his feet. He doesn't know. He thinks, flabbergasted. He has absolutely no idea that his son is romantically involved with someone. Someone that disappeared on top of that. Does young Todoroki trust his own father so little he'd rather keep something of this magnitude from him? More pieces of the puzzle are definitely falling into place now. The way young Todoroki seems to only really relax around his peers, only feeling safe enough near the friends he's grown to trust. The wariness he regards every adult with behind the mask of respect. And even then, even despite the fact he and Toshinori had little to no interaction besides their teacher-student relationship, young Todoroki still preferred going to him in times of absolute desperation. Still preferred hanging onto Toshinori and wailing in his arms like a lost child when he had nothing else to hang to. Toshinori is basically a stranger to him, and he still preferred that to his own family. He still kept his involvement with young Midoriya, something that clearly made him truly happy, from his own father.
Well, You look like you just saw a ghost.
Endeavor pushes, having found back his confident demeanor in front of Toshinori's silence.
I guess it can't be helped.
Toshinori sighs, shaking his head.
Very well. I will try to speak with young Todoroki if you think that will yield better results. That said, I please ask of you to give him space today. I'm sure you will have other chances to speak with him when he's less upset during the next lessons. Fine. As you wish.
Endeavor concedes, sarcastic. Toshinori is hopeful the man will keep his word, but he's going to follow him the whole day in any case. He will keep the promise he made to young Todoroki no matter what. They finish to drink their coffee in absolute stone-cold silence. The end of the extra lesson came way too fast. Shoto had finally been able to focus onto something else for the first time in 6 days. Maybe it was thanks to his resolve, the need to do his best and get his provisional license, so he would be sure nothing like this would ever catch him unprepared ever again. And it had been a small respite, the ability to take his mind away for a short while. Not forgetting. He would never be able to forget. The thought of Izuku was always nagging him in the back of his mind. But he'd been able to at least push it back there himself. If Gang Orca noticed anything amiss, and he probably did if the pointed looks Shoto often found himself subjected to during the lesson were anything to come by, he did not voice it. Even his father stayed blissfully silent from the grandstands, which helped Shoto pretty much ignore him the entire day. The 2 times he let himself steal a quick glance in his direction, All Might looked positively like a zealous guard dog sitting by his side. And Endeavor looked incredibly annoyed by it, which definitely clued Shoto into the fact that All Might must be doing everything he could to keep his word. Bless the guy. No wonder Izuku liked him so much. Shoto just finished putting back on the school uniform shirt after drying himself with his quirk when Bakugo suddenly grabs his forearm fingers so tight the grip is bordering on painful. Shoto turns, perplexed, mouth slightly open as he's trying to decide how he should react. But Bakugo doesn't give him the time, rudely pushing his phone under Shoto's nose. He needs to reread the text 3 times for the words to fully sink in. His head suddenly feels light, so light that the world spins for a second. He braces himself against the wall, staring at nothing as his vision swims and his heart beats painfully in his throat. Are you two okay? Inasa asks, puzzled and clearly very confused. Don't faint on me now, Bakugo says, jerking Shoto's arm a bit and snapping him out of the sudden daze. Sorry, Baldy, no time to explain. We gotta run. See you tomorrow. Say bye to Miss Illusion for us. He adds, hastily dragging Shoto by the arm toward the exit of the changing room. Shoto has barely the time to grab the handle of his bag as Inasa blinks at them, flabbergasted. He let himself getting dragged forward by Bakugo, his complete lack of tact. His skirt really hurt now, somehow helping him stay grounded instead of just melting on the floor in tears as he kind of wished to do. Words still fail him as they get out of the gymnasium, and Shoto just barely registers the presence of his own father standing a few meters away and glaring at All Might as he and Present Mike turn to them with equally wide eyes. If they look like this because of the way Bakugo was hauling him around like an angry mom, or because they know, Shoto is not sure. Bakugo let his own bag drop unceremoniously on the ground, rather than just let Shoto go, to fish his phone out of his pocket once more and shove it in All Might's face. We are going where the nerd is, now, before this guy dies on us. He snaps with a tiny nod to Shoto. Not a question, nor a request, as much as a direct order. All Might exchanges a look with Present Mike, then nods silently, before sighing.
Get in the car,
he simply says. They leave behind the chaos and the villains to pick up to the police, getting transported toward the nearest hospital. Midoriya refused to leave Aries' side, even if she seemed to be deeply asleep bundled up in the red cape, and no one protested about it. either because they all understood how he must be feeling, or because they really didn't want to challenge Muriel that looked like a guard dog hovering on the both of them in the back of the ambulance. Once they arrive, it takes quite a while for the doctors and nurses to convince the two boys to leave Eri in their care, and they finally manage to talk them out of her room by promising they'd be alerted as soon as she wakes up, whisking them away so they could also get checked up. Ochako, along with Suyu and Hado-senpai, as they fortunately did not sustain any serious wounds aside from some bruises, were the first to be released, now waiting on some plastic chairs in her room. It's a scene Ochako is far too familiar with, sadly, but at least this time, no one is on their possible deathbed. They sit in silence, all of them distracted by their own thoughts. The entirety of the rushed operation, if you could call it that, from the moment the police saw Midoriya escape from the mansion to the moment Midoriya and Muriel finally took Chisaki down for good, couldn't have been longer than 20-30 minutes. And yet it felt like a lifetime, and Ochako definitely feels exhausted now that the surge of adrenaline left her. Her brain is a garbled mess. Too many emotions storming into her to even try to put some order into her mind. But above all, she feels like melting into relieved tears. Midoriya is back with them, and he's okay. She doesn't even want to think back to those long seconds when they all knew they wouldn't be able to save him, about that gaping hole in his chest. If little Eri hadn't been there with whatever she was able to do with her mysterious quirk, Midoriya would have really died this time. But he didn't. He didn't even have a scratch on himself anymore. He was alive, and he was back, and that was all that mattered. Ochako's first instinct, as soon as they could sit down and catch our breath, had been to immediately call Todoroki, before she remembered that he currently didn't have a phone. So she went for the next best option, and after he didn't pick up, they still must be busy with the lesson, she sent a message to Bakugo. She was fairly sure he won't be such a jerk as to not let Todoroki know that Midoriya was back with them, and safe, as soon as he could look at his phone. Especially considering that in the past few days he looked as worried about the situation as the entire class did, in his own Bakugo way. Once that was out of the way, she messaged the entire class. Didn't waste time with details. There would be plenty of discussing those in the future, probably. Just told them that Midoriya was fine and safe and finally back with them. The reactions immediately poured in, everyone expressing overwhelming relief. Mina: OMG! I'm so glad, Ocha. Please send pictures. I need to see with my own two eyes. My brain is refusing to fully accept it. She chuckles, rapidly typing back. Can't right now. They are visiting him to make sure he's okay, but I'll do it as soon as I can. Kaminari: honestly, seconded. Just barge into the visit, Uraraka. We need pics, or it didn't happen. Ida: be patient, everyone. The most important thing is that Midoriya is fine. Uraraka: Ina, are you okay? Yao Momo: he's crying so hard he can't type. Toru: wow, Yao Momo, stone cold, just giving out again like that. Tsuyu let out a little croaky laugh at her side, cueing her into the fact she must be reading the group conversation as well. Ochako just used the usual group chat, which means both Midoriya and Todoroki will be able to read, listen, the entire log once they both get a functioning phone. They'd probably have a blast once things calmed down a bit. Ida: that is quite alright. It is true that I'm very relieved. Uraraka, please keep us posted about the situation until you are all back, if you can. Zero: God, you are so pure. It's not even fun to poke you a bit. Fine, whatever. Let's start planning at a party to welcome Midoriya back in the meantime. Mina: yes! Sato: this is my time to shine. Baking commences now! Ochako is just about to reply, a little grin on her mouth, when the door opens, Amajiki-senpai poking his head in. He's got a big bandage on his cheek, but aside from that, he seems perfectly fine. Hado, Muriel's done with his visit. he says, as timid as usual, avoiding their eyes. Come with me. You first years too. She exchanges a rapid look with Tsuyu before following, promptly putting her phone away. The others will have to wait for the moment. They spot Kirishima's bright red head before anything else, especially because it clashes violently with the pale green of the hospital scrub he's wearing. He turns to them with a toothy smile, looking a bit worse for wear, but aside from some bandages on his arms and a single band-aid on his nose, he's pretty much unscathed. Still, Ochako wonders just which kind of hits he must have taken for him to get even just a bit hurt considering his quirk. When both she and Tsuyu lean into him closer than really necessary, he doesn't comment, returning the gesture with a relieved sigh. I think they are keeping Midoriya in longer than necessary, he says, voice low, for obvious reasons. But I'm pretty sure he's okay. He was complaining loudly and at length about the fact that he was just fine in there before I was dismissed. Pretty annoyed at being poked and prodded by doctors, too, he adds with a snicker. Night Eye and his two sidekicks are just a bit further, along with Mirio, also wearing a scrub. His hair is a bit droopy, but he looks perfectly fine. At Kirishima's comment, he turns, welcoming them with a big smile as both Amajiki and Hado walk up to him. Hado-senpai smiles too in her vaguely loopy way, hugging him. Do you feel better now, Mirio? It's not hard to guess what she really means. Mirio seems to be back to his normal self, cheerful and sunny and energetic. He nods at her and grins at Amajiki that's hovering near him worriedly, before turning his attention back to Ochako, Kirishima, and Tsuyu. You guys okay? He asks, eyes glinting. I've been told you did pretty good back there. Thank you so much for your help. Kirishima scratches the back of his head, shifting his weight foot to foot, embarrassed. We just did what was right, he replies, Ochako and Tsuyu humming along in agreement. If only it's you that did great, senpai! Man, that battle at the end was something else! Yeah, honestly, Night Eye's sidekick Bubble Girl intervenes. Mirio, both you and Midoriya scare me a bit. You worked side by side for what, 6 hours in total? And yet your coordination back there was perfect. If I hadn't known anything about you both, I would have assumed you guys had been working side by side for at least a couple of years. Mirio snickers, bouncing on his feet. It's because Midoriya's quirk complements mine so well. And he's a pretty smart guy to boot, he says, cheerful. Night Eye sniffs, and Ochako swears she saw the ghost of a smile on his severe face for a split second. You both did good. I think some side-by-side training will be beneficial and develop your possible synergy even more for the future. It's a good thing we are both being taken care of by Serlin, isn't it? Mirio replies with a giant grin, just as the door opens. Aizawa Sensei appears, hands in his pockets, rapidly followed by Midoriya that is also sporting a hospital scrub on top of an incredibly annoyed expression on his face. Expression that shifts instantly as he turns toward them, a smile opening on his lips as Ochako, Kirishima, and Tsuyu immediately envelop him in a group hug once again. I'm so happy to see you, man! Kirishima almost shouts, bouncing against him. I still can't believe it! I really can't either, Midoriya laughs. It's good to be back. I'm glad you guys came for me. You have no idea how good it felt when I realized you were there. I don't know if I would have been able to go on if it wasn't for that. Those words immediately seemed to turn the air around them quite somber, but Midoriya didn't seem to realize as he leans into the hug with a little happy sigh. He only turns away when Night Eye's hand gently lands on his shoulder. Midoriya, he simply says, his low voice charged with something heavy. Midoriya's smile turns a bit melancholic, but it's still there nonetheless. Sir, he replies, pale eyes pointed upwards. I must have worried you quite a bit. Sorry. Night Eye sighs, shaking his head. I should be the one apologizing, he says, voice low, but Midoriya groans. Don't! It's okay, he replies, massaging his forehead. It's okay. The exchange was brief and charged with far more than their words let on, but both Midoriya and Night Eye seems to understand each other perfectly. Night-Eye smiles, just barely, squeezing his shoulder once before letting him go. I know you must be pretty tired, but I think we all want to hear what happened. Midoriya groans again, tilting his head on the side tiredly. I know, but can we wait a bit more? At least until everyone that needs to listen is here? I really don't want to be repeating this story 1,000 times. Fair enough. Night-Eye concedes, nodding. I will go get you something to eat in the meantime. Mirio, Bubble Girl, Centipede, come with me. You too, Amajiki and Hado, please. They all follow dutifully, and it takes a moment for Ochaka to realize that Night-Eye must have called them to give a chance to Aizawa-sensei, Tsuyu, Kirishima, and herself to spend some time alone with Midoriya. For someone that looks so cold and rigid, Night-Eye sure is a sweetheart. Aizawa-sensei, that must have come to the same conclusion if the lopsided smile he barely hides under his usual scarf is anything to come by, pats Midoriya on the shoulder, guiding all of them away with a little nod, checking his phone distractedly. They walk out the corridor and into another empty waiting room, Midoriya immediately making a beeline toward an open window, taking a deep breath. Fresh air! He says, his voice a mix of sarcasm and sincere relief. Nice! They group around him as if they are all waiting for something. Midoriya looks distracted for long seconds, a gentle breeze coming from outside caressing his messy curls as the sunlight creates a halo around them. Then he turns, suddenly looking incredibly tired. I need to ask you all a favor, he says, voice low. In front of their silence, he continues, please don't tell anyone what happened back there. About the fact I was able to see. For a bit. They all blink, Ochako exchanging a little look with Kirishima as Tsuyu tilts her head on the side asking, why not? It's hard to explain, and it'll make more sense later when I'll tell you all what I know. He starts indecisive. But that happened thanks to Aries' quirk, and I'm sure that if she finds out, she'll probably strain herself trying to help me get my sight back, and I don't want that. A long, forlorn pause. She went through enough already. She deserves to be happy and live a calm, worry-free life. If I put that weight on her shoulders, I don't want her to think about it. I just want her to finally be able to have a real childhood from now on. Midoriya! Kirishima says softly, his voice trembling. Midoriya smiles lopsided. It's okay, really. This is who I am, you know? He murmurs. I've lived all my life like this, and I have my quirk, and I have all of you, and even if sometimes things are hard, and sometimes I wish I could be able to see, it's still what made me, well, me. It's fine, really. So please, keep this between us. The silence stretches for a bit, and Midoriya's smile turns a bit wider. Besides, I'm not even sure there's any real chance Eri might be able to permanently give me my sight back, so it's kind of a moot point. And I'm really happy I was able to see how you all look like. It's funny, actually. Aizawa-sensei, you have a scar under your eye like I do. I had no idea. Aizawa-sensei blinks, and his voice sounds vaguely strangled when he speaks. Right. Yeah, I guess I do. Midoriya grins at him, cheerful, before turning back toward them. You guys look great! Nothing like I imagined you would! You all have such beautiful eyes! When they all hug him, again, he does not comment. Nor he does when Ochako sniffs a bit and her voice comes out trembling. Okay, Midoriya, if this is what you want, we won't tell anyone, she says, tears stinging in her eyes. Thank you, he replies with a sigh before umming. I think I'm going to start carrying a small mirror with me from now on. Maybe next time I'll be able to see for like 4 seconds and a half due to some kind of weird-ass circumstances. At least I might be able to see my own face. That drags a surprised laugh out of them, Midoriya grinning, satisfied. Yeah, laugh! Come on, stop feeling so down. Everything turned out okay, didn't it? I guess it did. Kirishima mutters, his face still pressed against Midoriya's shoulder. You gotta stop getting involved in stuff, man. There's only so much we can bear before we all explode with worry. You think I enjoy this? Midoriya asks, but is laughing, clearly amused. I'm about 300% done with getting in trouble right now. If I keep going like this, next time I'll stumble into the entirety of the League of Villains while grocery shopping or something.
Don't even joke about that.
Tsuyu grumbles, somewhat uncharacteristic of her, making Midoriya laugh again. Ah! Ochako gasps, remembering. She fishes her phone out of her pocket, turning. Strike a pose, everyone! We are getting a "Look, Midoriya is alive" selfie! Can we stop with the morbid sense of humor for a minute? Aizawa Sensei grumbles from the sidelines as they all turn toward the camera surrounding Midoriya. That surprises them into a laugh just as she's snapping the bake. And when she looks at it, they are all smiling like they are living the best day of their lives, despite the pale faces and the messy hair and the bruises and bandages. It's not far from the truth, Ochako ponders, as she immediately sends the pic into the group chat, following it with a cascade of party emojis. The reaction is immediate, again, ranging from key smashes to all caps OMG! And some more emoji madness. She grins. Everyone can't wait to have you back, she says, almost an understatement to her own ears. And Ina has been crying non-stop for the past 10 minutes, Mama reports. Aww, Midoriya says, sympathetic, a hand on his chest. Tell him I can't wait to be back too. As Ochako types, Midoriya suddenly seems to sober up quite a bit. Guys, can you give me and Uraraka a minute? Kirishima and Tsuyu blinks but promptly obey with a little hum, Aizawa Sensei silently following them without protests. Ochako stands there in front of him, and she truly looks at him for the first time since the battle. Despite the fact he's not sporting a single wound, he still looks fatigued as he leans against the window frame, eyebrows scrunched with worry. Is Shoto okay? He asks, voice low and concerned. Her heart feels like it's shrinking in her chest. Of course. Midoriya must have been worried for Todoroki as much as Todoroki had been for him. It's been hard, she replies, measured. I'm not going to lie, it's been pretty damn hard on him. We've been by his side as much as we could, but... A sigh. He's not as open with us as he is with you. But you're back now, so it'll be fine. He'll probably need a bit to recover. That's okay, Midoriya murmurs, nervously picking at the light green scrubs. I'm glad you guys were with him, at least. Did he say anything? Oh, Ochako hesitates. He had the training course today, so I'm not quite sure he knows yet, but, he doesn't have a phone for now. There was a little incident, and his got destroyed. I sent a message to Bakugo. He'll probably tell him once their lesson is over. Oh, right, it's Saturday, Midoriya murmurs, scratching his chin distractedly. Wait, what happened? What kind of incident? Is he hurt? No! Ochako rushes to reassure him as Midoriya turned a distressing blue shade of white. He's fine, it's just... he... dropped his phone. Midoriya tilts an eyebrow that. Dropped it, he repeats, flat. Yeah, Ochako says curtly, and Midoriya probably picks up on her tone of voice as he does not ask anything else, despite the clear, doubtful expression on his face. He sighs. Man, this whole ordeal fucking sucked, he mutters, probably safely slipping in the curse due to Sensei being far enough it won't hear. I can't even imagine what you guys must have been through. I'm sorry. Ochako sighs, exasperated. Can always count on Midoriya for him to be worried about others when he's the one that got kidnapped and apologizing for it too. She pinches his cheek, making him release a little scandalized, ow! Don't do the martyr thing! You'll only make things worse, she grumbles. Let's just be happy that you are back. He pouts, massaging his cheek. Fine, he sighs again. Is Sir Nine-Nine back yet? I'm actually really hungry right now. Thankfully, Nine-Nine came back not long after that question with enough bags of food to feed an army. Izuku gratefully let himself be guided sitting down and accepted the sandwich that someone pushed into his hands as they all sat in the waiting room that remained blissfully private, awkwardly hunched around the small plastic tables and feasting on the combini goodness. He moaned around the first bite. It was the best goddamn food in the world right now. Night-Eye was sitting a bit far, speaking in hushed tones with Aizawa-sensei, but Mirio immediately took place by Izuku's side, playfully bobbing his shoulder against Izuku's as he opened something, the crinkle of packaging filling his ears for a second. "Hungry, huh?" he comments, amused. "You have no idea," Izuku replies, already at the last bite. He pretty much wolfed the sandwich down. "You heard anything from the doctors?" Mirio huffs. "Not yet. I guess it'll take a while," he says, a pout in his voice. He distractedly pushes a bottle of water in Izuku's hands that accepts it gratefully. "I hope she'll be okay." "She will. She's strong," Izuku mutters after gulping down at least half the bottle in a single sitting. "Can I have another sandwich?" "You can have anything you want, buddy," Mirio replies with passion. "We've also got some bento trays and nukumon and dorayaki too, if you'd rather have something sweet." "I think I could eat all of that," Izuku says with a laugh. "Give me a bento, please." As Mirio dutifully passes it over, Hado-senpai chuckles.
Look at this mess. It's like a mini party.
She says, bubbly as usual. It definitely feels like it. Having the room all to themselves, sitting around the table and chatting lightly as they demolish the food. It fills Izuku's chest with such a sense of relief it almost makes his head spin. Everyone just feels so happy, it's inebriating him. And with a sigh, he turns off his radar. He immediately feels less intense and wrung out, despite the fact the feelings surrounding him were positive for the most part. It's probably better to lay low for a bit until he feels calmer and more balanced than he is right now. He spends the next few minutes attacking the bento, pleasingly sandwiched between Mirio and Uraraka, just listening in as they chat and laugh. He kind of wanted to sit there forever, surrounded by friendly voices, most of which he can now link to a face, and the even friendlier warmth of the people he cares about near him, keeping him grounded. There's still a lot squirming in the depth of his stomach, and he knows he'll feel the repercussions of this latest stunt for a while. But for now, he can just bask into the relief of being back, knowing Eri is in safe hands. He blinks, slowly munching on a bite of rice. It still feels weird, like the concept hasn't fully sunk in yet, knowing that he's actually safe, as is Eri. That he actually managed to help her this time. "You okay?" Mirio asks so softly that only Izuku hears him, his voice mostly covered by the louder chatting. Mirio's light hasn't stopped enveloping him with a sense of protectiveness even for a minute, even after the battle ended, and Izuku is sure that he would still feel like that if he turned his radar back on. He smiles at him a bit strained. "It's okay, just trying to adjust," he replies, voice just as low. "It's still kind of hard to believe I've actually managed to get Eri out of there." Mirio doesn't reply for long seconds before he circles Izuku's neck with an arm, gently guiding him in a hug as he presses his forehead down against Izuku's hair. "You did good," he murmurs, voice trembling. "You did so good, Midoriya, thank you." There's something in his voice that instantly makes a knot form in Izuku's throat. He sniffs, relaxing into the embrace. "I'm sorry I didn't realize we got separated," Mirio adds with a sigh. "If it wasn't for that, maybe... Senpai, it's okay. It'll happen so fast. None of what happened was your fault, okay?" Izuku immediately replies, serious. "Thank you for coming for us. I mean it," he adds when Mirio huffs. That wins him a little chuckle as Mirio squeezes him tighter for a couple of seconds before letting him go. "You're very welcome. And thank you for helping Eri when I could not, Midoriya," he says. "You're very welcome," Izuku parrots a grin on his face, making Mirio laugh. The atmosphere around them lightens as if a bubble suddenly bursts, and they go back to their impromptu party, joining back into the light discussion. Izuku only barely registers the sound of a door opening in the distance and pays it no mind as he finishes polishing the plastic tray that once contained the full bento set. His attention is definitely piqued by the fact that complete silence suddenly fell into the room, though. He finishes munching on the last bite, blinking, and doesn't really have the time to ask what is going on as he puts the empty tray down on the little table before he hears and feels everyone stand around him. Guys? He asks, perplexed, standing as well, more than a bit confused.
Stay here.
Uraraka says, sounding vaguely strangled. Izuku blinks again, following with his head the sounds of multiple steps getting away and a door closing. He ponders if he should turn his radar back on for all of 2 seconds before he's suddenly crushed into a tight hug that cuts his air out for a moment. He stands there, hands midair, a bit of panic rising in him. Izuku, Shoto whispers, broken, pushing his face against Izuku's shoulder. He's shivering, sobs shaking him, his hands grabbing tight at the hospital scrubs as he squeezes Izuku so strongly it's as if he wants them to melt into a single being. Izuku exhales, trembly, relaxing so plainly his knees almost give in. He carefully puts a hand on Shoto's head, his other sitting between his shoulder blades. Every little sob that shakes Shoto feels like a knife plunged into Izuku's chest. He carts his fingers through Shoto's soft hair, shushing him. "It's okay," he murmurs, barely capable of talking, around a knot in his throat. "It's okay, Shoto. It's okay, I'm here. Don't cry." A louder sob rumbles through Shoto's shoulders as he shakes his head against Izuku. He hiccups around his words a couple of times before he finally speaks, voice like gravel. "It's not okay," he sobs. "It's not." "But it is. Look at me, I'm fine." Izuku tries to protest, gently relaxing the hug. "Look at me, Shoto. I'm okay, see?" Shoto sniffs, his soft breath caressing Izuku's cheek when he takes a tiny step back. He's shivering under his palms, and Izuku keeps gently caressing his back, his other hand sliding down along his face and neck to do the same on his arm. Shoto's hands relax too, riding up to sit on both of Izuku's cheeks as Shoto presses his forehead against Izuku's. "Do you have any idea how worried I was?" he murmurs, his voice a chaotic mix of incredulity, frustration, and relief. It broke as he added, "Izuku, I'm sorry. Please don't cry." Izuku murmurs back, shifting forward to nuzzle his cheek. "It's over, Shoto. It's over. I'm back. Don't worry anymore." His voice lowers as he adds, "I missed you." Shoto releases a trembly sigh, fingers sliding along Izuku's cheeks and neck. He leans in a tiny bit, just enough to press a series of little kisses on Izuku's face. "Shoto!" Izuku murmurs, relaxing against him, his legs suddenly feeling like jelly. "Don't! I haven't showered all week. I'm like mega gross." That finally wins him a little wet chuckle. "Stupid," Shoto murmurs after pressing another long kiss at the corner of Izuku's mouth. "I don't care." "But I do," Izuku replies, petulant, but smiles when Shoto barely chuckles again. "Let me get cleaned up and then we'll kiss as much as you want." Shoto sighs, enveloping him in another silent, long hug. Izuku let himself get cradled in his arms, pressing his head on Shoto's shoulder with a little trembly sigh. It feels so good to be back in Shoto's arms. "Izuku, Shoto says after a long while, subdued, not letting him go. But he hesitates, sighing. "We should probably call the others back in. I think All Might's hands might fall clean off of his wrists if he doesn't get to hug you too." A surprised laugh shakes Izuku as he turns his face up a bit, bumping his nose against Shoto's warm neck. "He's here too?" "Of course," Shoto replies faintly, a smile in his voice. "He was with me at the lesson. We came here straight away." "Oh!" Izuku exhales. Nice, the idea that they rushed here. And he really wants to hug All Might too. But at the same time, he just doesn't want to leave Shoto's arms quite yet. 4 more minutes? Just us? Anything you want, Izuku. Shoto murmurs, squeezing him, his voice trembling a bit. Anything you want. They really cannot wait anymore once Inko arrives. They've given young Midoriya and Todoroki a good full 10 minutes alone in the waiting room, and Inko looks clearly relieved, if pale, as she walks up to them, but promptly looks confused when she realizes young Midoriya isn't between them. Toshinori smiles at her, lopsided, putting a finger on his lips before he pushes open the doors just slightly, and they both poke their heads in. The 2 boys are sitting on the plastic chairs, leaning into one another. Young Todoroki is protectively enveloping Midoriya into a one-armed hug, his other hand gently keeping Midoriya's against his own lips. He slowly kisses his knuckles as Midoriya relaxes against him, eyes closed. The gesture is so tender, it immediately makes Toshinori feel like he's intruding into something he's not meant to see. But young Todoroki must catch the movement out of the corner of his eyes, because he turns toward them. He still looks pale and exhausted, but his eyes are finally clear. He faintly smiles at them before leaning in a bit more and murmuring something to young Midoriya that opens his pale eyes, almost the same color of the hospital scrub he's wearing, and nods, shifting away to sit upright. Todoroki doesn't let his hand go as he gestures at them to enter with his other. Inko is the first to step in, rapidly closing the distance to kneel in front of her son. She puts a hand to his cheek, and he smiles at her. "Mom," he says, low and gentle, and she releases a little sob before shifting forward to hug him tightly. She doesn't say anything, just kisses his messy hair and holds him, gently swaying. Toshinori hesitates on the door for long seconds, before also approaching, lingering by their side. Young Todoroki's eyes widen a bit when he finds himself squeezed into a group hug, Toshinori's long arms encircling the 3 of them easily. He looks up with his mismatched gaze, blinking, his cheek smooshed against Toshinori's forearm as young Midoriya makes a muffled noise. Toshinori laughs at his expression, although he's not sure that's the only reason he's laughing. He just can't stop as he keeps squeezing them close, even as Midoriya tries to whine that he needs oxygen, and Inko says that he's messing her hair up, a smile in her voice. Once the chaos of hugs and laughter fully calmed down, the waiting room felt pretty tight. Fat Gum and Ryuku joined them at some point, also wearing hospital clothing and sporting bandages. It takes a while, but in the end, they all sit down in a large circle, young Todoroki claiming one of Midoriya's sides, their fingers interlaced, and Inko the other, her own fingers carding through her son's curls, even despite his protests about the fact that he's gross. It's Night-Eye that calls for silence, softly clearing his throat and gently putting a stop to the light chattering. "I spoke with the police some minutes ago. All the criminals present on site have been arrested and secured away, and the police are still searching Chisaki's mansion. They are proceeding with arrests there as well." A cough. "Apparently, the agents found, and I quote, a trail of beaten-up men. I wonder if you'd be able to tell us more about what happened, Midoriya." "Oh, yeah, that." Midoriya chuckles nervously, pulling at the neck of the hospital scrubs. "I guess it'd be better if I start from the beginning, huh?" "If you please," Night-Eye replies, courteous. "I'm going to record this for the police so you won't have to repeat it again, if that is okay with you." Midoriya nods and seems to gather his thoughts for a bit, head tilted vaguely on a side, before he starts to speak almost methodically. He tells them of how his attention was piqued during the patrol with Mirio, of how Chisaki's men intended to try lure him in a trap in the first place, and he just fell in earlier than they imagined. He tells them of the long walk toward Chisaki and their exchange, and the other long walk in which they thought him blind as they guided him to the mansion. He told them of how he made a point of trying to memorize the area before they used the quirk-suppressing drug on him, and how that turned to be a lifesaver for his and little Aries' escape. He told them of Eri herself, of the info he could gather about her quirk and his own conclusions regarding how it works, what kind of life she led. And by extension, he also led for 5 days into the mansion. That seemed to be what really got to him, his voice turning strangled more than a couple of times as he spoke of the girl's hardships, his eyes filled with rage at the thought of what she went through. No one interrupted him, despite the fact that young Midoriya's anger could be found mirrored in each and every one of their gazes. He tells them of the plan he concocted, and Toshinori could tell there was much young Midoriya was omitting, as he was sure Night Eye could also tell. It was clear that young Midoriya could count on One for All for his escape, but spun the story in a way that didn't make it obvious to anyone that wasn't aware of the power entrusted to him. And he told them of how he and Eri worked together toward freedom. He told them of their desperate blind run, of how they got chased down, and how he finally managed to get his quirk back only once Eri activated her own in desperation. You know the rest, he sighs, his voice a little raw after speaking for so long. At least those of you that were there. Those who didn't, please ask them. I think I'm about done talking for the day. He pats forward along the table, and young Todoroki silently slides a half-finished bottle of water toward him, letting his hand go as to give young Midoriya the chance to twist the cap open and drink generously. Inko didn't make a single sound for the entire duration of the tale, despite the fact that tears rolled down her cheeks multiple times. She hugs the boy with a trembly sigh, pushing a kiss against his temple. Young Midoriya doesn't protest, tiredly leaning into the hug, idly playing with the now empty bottle. Night Eye adjusts the glasses on his nose, turning the recorder off. I'm sure the police will ask to speak with you directly to clear some things up at a later time, but this will suffice for now, he says clinical. Thank you, Midoriya. No problem, Midoriya replies, sounding quite tired. He rubs at his eyes, yawning. What time is it? I'm totally lost. 5:15, Night Eye replies, glancing at his clock. The doctors want you to stay the night, so you might as well get back to your room and rest a bit. What? I don't need to stay, I'm okay, Midoriya immediately replies, frowning. Can't I just get back to school? Inko sighs. Izuku, come on, just for a night. An expression that can only be described as about rises on the boy's face, and Mirio intervenes, gentle. They want me to stay too. We can have a pajama party, he says with a little laugh. Besides, when Eri wakes up, you'll be right there for her, right? It's a low blow, and they both know it, going by the unamused little glare that young Midoriya launches Lord Mirio that's grinning sheepishly. Okay, fine. I'll stay, he grumbles. They want everyone that got involved in the fight to stay. Kirishima intervenes, grinning. As Mirio-senpai said, we can have a pajama party! You are all supposed to rest. Aizawa intervenes, his tone suggesting he's already given up to the fact that any kind of resting will hardly happen. Sorry, Sensei, Kirishima replies, unabashed. We can have a really quiet golf party? That drags a little laugh out of young Midoriya, already looking much happier at the prospect of spending the night in the hospital with his friends. Still, he shifts a bit, vaguely leaning back against Todoroki. Can you guys stay a bit longer, though? He asks, subdued.
Visiting hours end at 6.
Aizawa says softly.
That's as much as we can stretch it.
Young Midoriya hums and sighs, relaxing into the embrace as Todoroki circles his waist with both arms. That'll have to do, he murmurs. The less than an hour they had went by in a flash as Izuku let himself get absolutely smothered and peppered in cuddles by both Shoto and Mom, feeling like a living plushie. Not that he minded, really, although it was a bit embarrassing to have Mom so close while his boyfriend openly snuggled him. They parted ways reluctantly, the only thing finally convincing Shoto to let him go being the promise Izuku would move hell on heart, if needed, to get back at school the next day. They really didn't have the privacy nor time to sit down and talk, so Izuku really wanted to have some time with him once he'd get back on school grounds. Shoto pushed one last chaste kiss on his lips before letting his hand go. If they don't let you go tomorrow, I'll make sure to come by, he says softly, lingering near. Izuku hums. Told you I'm going to get back tomorrow. Had enough of hospitals for a lifetime, he replies with a little grumble before adding a softer, Good night, Shoto. Shoto hesitates, as if he wanted to say something, but then sighed. Good night, Izuku. Rest well. Izuku lingers, leaning against the wall, listening to the sound of Shoto's footsteps getting far. He doesn't move for a while, once they were long gone, just taking a minute to catch his breath. He barely turns away with a little sigh, grabbing the cane the hospital borrowed him. It's kind of uncomfortable. It's probably a normal walking cane, going by the shape and weight of it, but it'll have to do for now. When a different series of steps came closer in a hurry, a hand closes on his wrist, dragging him away a couple of meters. Izuku splutters, trying and failing to resist, and doesn't really have the time to turn his radar back on to try and understand what is going on when a familiar voice speaks up. Dude, it's me, fucking chill. Kachan? Izuku blinks, flabbergasted. What are you doing here? Guess you were creeping that quirk of yours off, huh? Kachan replies flatly. I was here the entire time. Oh! Izuku exhales and, right. I should probably have thought of that since Shoto told him that they came to the hospital directly after the training course. Hi? But shouldn't you go back to school? I will, just a groan. Listen. Izuku closes his mouth and listens. Why do you always have to make things so difficult? Kachan grumbles, and Izuku doesn't have the chance to protest that he's literally doing nothing before he continues. Listen, I had time to think, okay? And maybe I thought that it's better to do some things before, you know. He hesitates, so Izuku gently replies, To be honest, no, I don't know. Kachan groans. God damn it, whatever. Here goes nothing. A pause. I was a giant dick to you. I'm sorry. Time stops flowing. Izuku is sure. He's holding his breath, completely shocked, and the shock only gets exponentially stronger when he feels two arms around him and a body pressing against his in the shortest, most stiff, and awkward hug of all time. If you tell anyone what happened here, I will skin you alive. Kachan growls after he let Izuku go as if he got burned, but his voice lacked any real bite. Welcome back, shithead. Try not to fucking die for like a week, baby. And with that he goes, hurried steps, getting away as fast as they came. What the fuck? Izuku whispers to absolutely nothing after a full minute of just standing there, white noise buzzing in his mind. Where were you, you bad boy? Present Mike screams loud as usual, as if he wanted to make up for being so quiet this morning as they left UA. We almost left without you. Bathroom. Bakugo bit back, strangely red in the face, avoiding everyone's eyes as he approaches the car. All mine size.
Next time, warn us first, baby.
What am I, a first grader? Do I need to ask permission to piss now? All Might blinks back at him, unamused, and Bakugo grunts, climbing in the car. Shoto follows, silent, suppressing the small smile you can feel pulling at his lips at the exchange. He honestly feels like he could laugh at every stupid little thing, almost drunk on this high of relief. His chest feels light in a way that's almost painful in all the best ways. It sucks that he'll have to spend another night alone, but at least he will do so with the knowledge that Izuku is safe and secure and in good company with Uraraka, Asui, and Kirishima. And he promised to be back tomorrow, so if he's lucky, their Sunday lesson won't take too long, and he'll have a good chunk of their free day to spend back with his boyfriend. God, Izuku is okay. He still can't quite believe it. The ride back to UA goes by in a much more relaxed silence now, as Shoto stares out the window, melted against the car seating. He suddenly feels exhausted, and he might just go straight to bed once back to the dormitories. Anything to make time go by faster so we could be tomorrow sooner. They get dropped down in front of the entrance gates, President Mike driving away to go park the car in UA garages. Bakugo immediately stops away, possibly noisier than usual, which Shoto guesses is his way to express relief. He's honestly not quite sure. All Might watches his back before launching a look to the sky as if he's mentally asking for strength. He turns to Shoto.
I'm not quite sure if Aizawa is going to get back tonight, so I'll probably accompany you both tomorrow as well,
he says.
You did really good at the lesson today.
Oh, thank you, Shoto replies, faintly surprised, taken aback by the sudden compliment. Okay, then. Good night, sir.
Good night.
All Might replies, a smile pulling at his lips, and Shoto takes barely a couple of steps away before stopping and turning back to him. Actually, he starts, indecisive. I just wanted to say thank you for everything. All Might regards him with a long look before his shoulders seem to relax a bit.
That is quite all right, my boy. No need to thank me,
he replies, gentle.
If you need anything, just know that my door will always be open for you.
Shoto nods wordlessly. He's not very good with words, and the only person in the world that's truly capable of making him feel at ease in speaking his mind will have to spend the night in a hospital. So Shoto tries the second best thing he has to convey his gratitude. He covers the distance between them and gives All Might a nervous hug. After an initial second of tense surprise, All Might let out a trembly sigh, putting his long fingers on Shoto's shoulders gently. He squeezes him closer, and suddenly they don't really need words anymore to understand. Shoto distinctly wonders if this is how it should feel, getting hugged by a father. It's quite a nice feeling. After the downright chaotic dinner is shared with his classmates, all of them too happy and excited to really calm down, Shoto immediately retreated for the night, relaxed and happy in his futon for the first time in what felt like ages. They've been loudly planning a full-blown party to welcome back Izuku and the others the day to follow, between a bite and the other. Even Ida, that looked strangely unkempt as he sat by Shoto's side, participated in the planning, instead of pulling the class president card to try and rein them in bits. That had been very nice, even if neither he or Bakugo would probably be back until the afternoon to enjoy said party. He wishes he could speak with Izuku a bit, but, well, no phone. He feels like his chest is aching with the need to tell him. The words have been on the tip of his tongue all day. But he has no choice. He needs to be patient a bit longer. Tomorrow. He'll say it tomorrow. He falls asleep, cradling in himself those words like a precious treasure that he cannot wait to gift Izuku with.